colleagues who are not here, we'd like to wish them a happy birthday, and our prayer that Almighty God will grant each of them many more years of service to our fatherland and of good health. So congratulations on your birthday, and happy birthday again. Further announcement. I would like to acknowledge the presence of members of the National Association of Public Administration Students, Nasarawa State University, Chapter, Kefi, Nasarawa State. We also have staff and students of Federal Government Academy, Suleja, Niger State. We also have staff and students of Shadoni Primary School, Kubwa, Abuja. And then members of National Association of Political Science Students, Federal University Lokoja, Kogi State. On behalf of the Senate, I would like to welcome you to today's proceedings and wish you a fruitful observation. Please settle down. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, you raised a petition now.
Nobody said anything when I said to the President. Petition? Do you have petition? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. I have a petition from one of my constituents. It's in respect of a young youth service corps member, a youth corps that was killed in Port Harcourt, January 2018. A young man, a first-class brain from Egyptian Academy. He graduated as a marine engineer. He worked in Nimasa, obtained various awards, had his master's. He was already looking forward to life when police triplet, I don't know whether they were dispersing a crowd or whatever, killed him in Port Harcourt, January 8th day of January 2018. And the parents are crying for justice, even by way of compensation or anything, or recognition from the federal government that yes, indeed, this kind of act occurred, and they are aching. And we feel their pain, and therefore they have appealed to the Senate to look into the plight of the bereaved family, even for their compensation.
Can you read the petition, please? Thank you, Minority Leader. It's referred to a Committee on Ethics and Petitions to report back in 2 weeks. Any other petition? Senate Leader. Point of order, Sir Mohammed. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to come under Order 43. With your kind permission.
Can read? Put back your microphone.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make in is sought. Mr. President.
I'm sure, Hassan, you know you didn't discuss this matter with me. You have not met the terms of that order. So I'm afraid we may have to come back tomorrow.
Not controversial at all. It's just to show appreciation, Mr. President. You know, I brought in a motion on the demise of late Mala Adamu Chiroma, and a delegation was set by this Senate to go and condole the family of, the Emirates, the Efika Emirate. And they...
Can you explain? You are saying you didn't meet the terms of the rules. So we should learn how to keep to our rules. This rule is meant to be kept. You can't be breaching it, no matter how simple it appears. So you can still deal with that tomorrow. State leader.
Lenga, you don't want to raise? We are past that stage.
I finished with petition now. State leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Order.
So when Ashafa, you were here when I asked whether there were other petitions. You didn't say anything. So we had to proceed. So I'm afraid we'll take a petition by tomorrow. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act, Amendment Bill 2018, HB 206, first reading.
National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act, Amendment Bill 2018, HB 206, first reading taken. Sir Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is also the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Institute of Personnel.
Distinguished colleagues, this chamber is too noisy. We can't continue this way. Please settle down. Chief Whip, can you control the House?
Yes. The Segway Senator Akpabio, please go back to your seat. The Segway Senator Dume, please go back to your seat. The Segway Senator
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is also the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria Act, Amendment Bill 2018, HB 212, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria Act, Amendment Bill 2018, HB 212, first reading taken. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria Act Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria Act, Cap F16, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, HB 911, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria Act, Cap F16, Laws of the Federation, 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, HB 911, first reading taken. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Engineering Registration, etc. Bill, Act Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Engineering Registration, etc. Act Amendment Bill 2018, HB 1092, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Engineering Registration Act, Amendment Bill 2018 HB 1092, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Donald Alashadura on the Nuclear Safety, Security and Safeguards Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018. Mr. President, may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nuclear Safety, Security and Safeguards Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, SB 695, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Nuclear Safety, Security and Safeguard Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, SB 695, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Magnus Abe on the documentation and protection of domestic workers and employees Bill 2018. Mr. President, may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Documentation and Protection of Domestic Workers and Employees Bill 2018, SB 696, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Documentation and Protection of Domestic Workers and Employees Bill 2018, SB 696, first reading taken. Well, Senate Leader, last week when we were not there, some of our colleagues raised this issue of the outstanding Senate bills in the House of Representatives. And they believe that they don't seem to be enjoying the reciprocal attention we are giving to House bills here. And we directed that your office, together with your deputy, should engage the House and find out why there are so many bills that originated from the Senate that are still outstanding in the House. I don't know if you have such a report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On this, you are a living witness, Mr. President, that we have continuously engaged the House to take our bills. I know and I agree completely that we do more of their bills here than they do ours on their side. But I think what I will do is to engage the House leader and you two at the presiding officer's level, you engage with the Speaker so that within the next week that we have to leave at the end of the legislative week, we are able to get more of our bills concurred by the House. But I agree completely that we do more of their bills here than they do on that side. Actually, we are trying to review and amend our standing orders, both for the Senate and the House, to ensure that if a bill leaves the House, for example, and comes into the Senate for concurrence, then there should be a time limit within which that bill must be passed. Or if it stays longer than that time, then the bill would have been assumed to be passed. So that we cut down this kind of long delays that we can avoid. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for the explanation. So we just hope that this sorted out in earnest. All right, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I will move that we stand down the presentation of the seventh business of the day due to the absence of the chairman, who is inevitably absent, attending to some other legislative activities of the Senate outside the country. I therefore move that we stand down until another legislative day.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I second the motion that we stand down the other items on the order paper as stated by the leader.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that will stand down the next item to another legislative day, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Stand Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Science, and Technology and Chemical Weapons Prohibition Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Robert Boniface, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Professor Boniface.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Robert Adai Boniface, Senator representing Ondo North Senatorial District. I rise to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Science and Technology on the Chemical Weapons Prohibition Bill 2018 SB 585. I so move.
Senator Ndume.
To second as moved by distinguished Senator Boniface.
Thank you, very distinguished Senator Ndume. Dear colleagues, those in support that the Senate do not receive this report, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Boniface may proceed to lead the report. State Leader. All right, thanks, State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Donald Alasha Dura and 3 others on the irregularities in the ongoing oil and gas lease renewal and massive loss of government revenue. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Donald Alasha Dura to move the motion.
Senator Alasha Dura.
Senate President, sir, distinguished colleagues,
Votes and
my name
of Tuesday,
is Senator
17th of
Donald
July,
Omotayo Alasha Dura, representing Ondo Central Senatorial District of Ondo State. My motion, Your Excellency, is on irregularities in the ongoing oil and gas lease renewal and massive loss of government revenue. Senate notes with concern that the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources has since December 2007 been inundated with a plethora of petitions and complaints, and has suo motu observed that there are multiplicity of irregularities surrounding the ongoing renewal of oil and gas leases being undertaken by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum and the Department of Petroleum Resources. Notes with concern that the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources is granting all manner of illegal discounts and rebates in the process of the ongoing renewal of the leases. Concerned that the action of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources is capable of shortchanging the country and denying the Federation the appropriate revenue accruable from the renewal of the said leases. Senate notes that the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and Department of Petroleum Resources are proceeding to renew leases of companies that have brazenly and illegally refused to pay royalties due to government from oil and gas lifted by the said companies in contravention of the extant laws. Observe that under the provision of extant rules, failure to pay royalties is a grant for revocation of leases and a legal barrier to renewal of applicable leases. Senate notes further that there is a subsisting legal framework and due process mandated by extant law for the renewal of leases that are due for renewal. Senate further observes that the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources have deliberately, willfully, and brazenly decided to depart from the subsisting legal framework and due process mandated by extant law for the renewal of all leases. Senate is concerned that the irregularities being perpetrated by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources in the ongoing lease renewal process is capable of denying government revenue in excess of $10 billion as a result of illegal discounts and rebates in the process of lease renewal. Senate is further concerned that the Department of Petroleum Resources has willfully and deliberately refused to provide the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources upstream with relevant information and data related to the ongoing lease renewal. Satisfied of the need to thoroughly investigate the ongoing lease renewal being undertaken by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources, given the potential alarming impact this will have on government in terms of loss of revenue accruable to the Federation, and to ascertain the reasons for the anomalies in the ongoing lease renewal process, and also to identify appropriate measures to deal with these anomalies through appropriate legislative and other supportive instruments. Accordingly, Senate accordingly resolves to mandate the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources upstream to investigate all issues relating to the ongoing lease renewal being undertaken by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources, and to report to the Senate the anomalies in the ongoing lease renewal process and identify appropriate measures to correct the said anomalies.
All right, thank you. Sabi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to commend the mover of this motion for this very timely intervention. However, I want to state that being a motion seeking to investigate some issues, I think it will be more or less, trying to put the cart before the horse. So on this note, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is only proper that we should just take the prayers and put the question so that when they do the investigation and bring all the facts, then it becomes much easier for us to be able to interrogate this subject matter and contribute appropriately. I so stand.
Thank you for seconding the motion. Well, let's just take some few comments without delving into the main subject, and then I'll be able to go to the prayers. Session, Sani.
I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sadi. Mr. President, the motion is a narrative of the situation in the oil industry today. When issues are raised about transparency and accountability in the oil sector, there is the urgent need for this parliament to intervene. From the substance of this motion, it is very clear that the Minister of State has in every possible way been engaged in acts that contravenes the law. And I believe this is the very person whom over a year ago has written an open letter raising issues about transparency and impunity in the oil sector. The issue of the leasing is something that has been in the front burner of national discourse in the last few weeks. And what this parliament can do is, for once and for all, to bring the minister to make a clarification about the actions he has taken. $10 billion is no small amount of money. And I'm of the belief that if we can get to the root of this matter, it will also open other kind of worms in the petroleum sector. This motion opens the whole process as it is vague and very unclear. So I believe that our intervention here should be in such a way that we must do everything possible to open up the oil industry as the central focus of our Nigeria's economy, that we can know what is actually happening there. There have been series of motions in this Senate that has to do with the NMPC. And in every possible way, resolutions after resolutions, not much actions have been taken on it. But I think it is time for us to do what needs to be done. To summon the Minister of State, put him in the dock, and I believe other key officials of the petroleum sector, the GMD and others, should also be invited by this committee. Thank you very much.
Okay. Senator Kofi, we'll take Kofi, take Dr. Bulahan, and then Rafi, and then we'll go to the prayer.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name remains Senator Omar Ibrahim Kulfi, representing Kasa Central. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, let me start by congratulating the mover of this very, very important motion. Mr. President, this motion, this case will automatically be referred to the committee automatically for various reasons. One, these leases are not being ruled as S2, and they don't even pay fully. Whereas they don't pay fully, so how do you get the income? At the same time, Mr. President, they are always giving rebate, a reasonable rebate, and even after there's a discount. And at the same time, the same organization will get renewal. So what means do we get renewal? So, Mr. President, this motion should be treated immediately. We should allow the committee to go and search and invite the minister to explain why this is happening. You cannot afford to be giving people things which they don't even pay the premium, and instead of paying, they pay rebate. Instead of those again, they get discount. So, Mr. President, by the distinguished colleagues, we cannot be seen in this chamber holding our arms on this. We cannot be seen closing our eyes, and we cannot keep mute. We must act immediately to recover this. I so submit, sir.
Very well, thank you, Bulahan.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. I remain Mr. Bulahan Dada, representing Ogun West. Yes, I thank you. The motion is well placed, but the answer is Nigeria has enough law in their statutes to take care of illegalities. This house, every day here, we come across people who have violated the systems, and there's no sanction applied. As long as we don't apply sanction and no consequence, it will continue. NMPC is the bedrock of corruption in this country. We know that. And there's no question about that. We've seen many cases of that, even in public accounts. But if you continue, the renewal is the bottom line where people can make a lot of money from. But you can't continue to torture the country. And at the end of the day, the minister himself refused to come. If you call the minister to come, must come and give a quality argument and support system that the reason why you take those actions. Because I know many people who are complaining their licenses have been revoked without due causes. Others who are not deserved are being renewed. We can't continue playing this way. Actually, the house must show us commitment to this cause. Mr. President, sir, and my colleagues, I feel we should call the minister here and ask a policy question for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rafi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Rafi Ibrahim. I represent Kwara South. The only addition I have, observation I have on this motion is that I think for the fact that Mr. President is the Minister of Petroleum Resources, maybe that is why this motion is not mentioning the Minister of Petroleum Resources. But we are aware that the Minister of State ordinarily does not have final approval of this type of leases. There's a board of NMPC, there's the whole ministry, and it is out there, though it's not yet substantiated until the committee substantiates that the chief of staff to the president is a member of the board and is literally in charge of the ministry and NMPC. So I would just want the prayer to expand those to be called for investigation, probably include the board. It's in the rumor mill that the chief of staff is in charge of NNPC and the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. So that the Minister of State will not just come and say he's not the one in charge. And we know in all our law there is no space for Minister of State. Minister of State cannot do final approval. So that's just my observation, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, distinguished colleagues. And as I said, we may not have to go into the details of the issues since we're going to have a public hearing on this. I will charge Senator Rasadu and his committee to do a very good job because what is an issue here is transparency. And that has been a major setback in the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. So we must ensure, using our oversight, that there's transparency in the management of oil and gas resources. And I believe that we can achieve that. So we believe that we should be able to do what is possible in the circumstance to ensure that there's transparency in this present exercise. Just as Bolohan said, one of our major problems is the issue of enforcement and regulations, because we have sufficient rules, to guide us in almost all sectors. So I just want to appeal to regulatory agencies and enforcement agents to wake up their responsibilities in order to ensure that the correct things are done in this country, irrespective of who is involved. And I'm sure that now that we are taking up this matter, that should be a good way to start, or at least to continue to ensure that we put our people on the right path of not only transparency, but enforcement of rule of law, including enforcement of existing laws, and then regulatory agencies ensuring that the correct things are being done. So wish you good luck. Now we'll go to the prayers. Mandate the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources upstream to investigate all issues related to the ongoing lease renewal being undertaken by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources, and to report to the Senate the anomalies in the ongoing lease renewal process and identify appropriate measures to correct the said anomalies. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President C&C for the confirmation of the nomination of 2 new non-legal practitioners for appointment as members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission in accordance with Section 154, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the names are 1. Senator Abba Ali, Katsina, Northwest Zone. 2. Mohammed Sagir, Niger, North Central Zone. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President C&C to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President C&C be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. I so move.
All right, thank you. Well, distinguished colleagues, in the absence of any objection, the request of Mr. C&C, President of Nigeria, is now referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Oh, sorry, can you first second the motion?
Mr. President, I second the motion that this matter be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action.
All right, thank you. Those in support of the prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the matter request is now sent to the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters for further legislative action and to report back within 2 weeks. Thank you. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President C&C for the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Banire Louis Muiz Ademi, PhD, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for appointment as Chairman of Governing Board of the Access Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, in accordance with Section 10, Subsection 1 of the Access Management Corporation of Nigeria Act 2010. Mr. President, Distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President CNC to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President CNC be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action.
Honorable Leader.
Mr. President, I second the motion that this matter be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action.
Dear colleagues, in support of the request of the prayer that the matter be sent to the appropriate committee, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. So the colleagues, in the absence of any objection and with the approval now given, the matter is now sent to the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions for further legislative action and to report back within 2 weeks. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President CNC for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as chairman and members of the board of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation (NDIC) in accordance with Section 5, Subsection 4 of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation Act 2006. The names are 1. Chief Olabode Akim Mustafa, Chairman, Ogun Southwest. 2. Alhaji Garba Buba, Member, Bauchi. 3. Bello Garba, Member, Sokoto. 4. Brigadier General Joseph O.J. Okolagu, Member, Enugu. 5. Mustafa Adewale Mudashiru, Member, Para. 6. Barrister Festus A. E. Keamu, Member, Delta. And 7. Mr. Adewale W. Adeleke, Member, Ondo. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President CNC to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President CNC be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action.
Honorable Leader.
Mr. President, I second the motion that this request of the CNC be referred to the appropriate committee.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that this matter be referred to the appropriate committee, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. It's accordingly referred to the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions for further legislative action and report back in 2 weeks. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I want to move that we stand down the consideration of the fifth order of the day, which is second reading of National Planning Commission Bill, Repeal and Reenactment 2018. The sponsor, Senator Ross Oko, is unavoidably absent. I will therefore move that we stand down this till another legislative day.
Honorable Leader.
Mr. President, I second the motion that this matter be stood down to another legislative day.
This is colleagues in support of the motion that this particular item be stood down to another legislative day, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is second reading of the Federal Teaching Hospital Abeokuta Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this...
Sorry, Leader, there's another one before that from Tejosho. Is that what it is? Oh, okay.
Maybe I start from the beginning so that I carry you along, sir. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is second reading of the Federal Teaching Hospital Abeokuta Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 31st day of May 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Larry Tojusho to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Joshua.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I am Larry Joshua, representing Ogun Central, Ogun State. I move for the motion for a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Abeokuta, and for other matters connected therewith, 2018 SB 684. I so move.
You can proceed.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the lead debate on a bill for the establishment of Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, SB 684. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate of this very important bill for the establishment of the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Abeokuta. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, the 1st of June 2018. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the bill seeks to establish the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Abeokuta, and make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration. The establishment of this institution is informed by the imperative to create more access to higher medical studies in view of the large number of qualified candidates who are annually stranded in their failed attempt in gaining admission into higher institutions in the state and Nigeria. A survey conducted by the Daily Trust newspaper of July 10, 2017 edition showed that only about 3,000 out of nearly 160,000 that applied can be admitted to study medicine in all the universities in Nigeria. Adequate funding, effective monitoring and development. At the moment, the discipline of medicine and its allied sciences is swallowed up in the general pool of the conventional universities, with the result that it does not receive the needed attention, development, and budgetary provisions. Developing an international reputation for excellence in the field of medicine and related fields requires a university that is focused and committed to teaching and research in medical sciences and health-related disciplines. The university, like its counterparts in other parts of the world, is envisioned as a multidisciplinary space for education, research, harnessing science and innovation to tackle health challenges bedeviling the nation. To meet the challenges of inadequate health professionals in the country, statistics show that the doctor-patient ratio in Nigeria falls far short of the World Health Organization recommendations. The WHO standard stipulates the ratio of 1 doctor to 600 patients. This contrasts with the current 1 doctor to about 5,000 patients in Nigeria. At the moment, Nigeria has only about 35,000 practicing medical doctors, serving a population of about 180 million people. In other words, Nigeria needs no fewer than 300,000 medical doctors to meet the WHO requirement. Based on the existing system and statistics, it will take Nigeria about 100 years to have the number of doctors she needs, and that is if none of the doctors and new graduates leave the country, and none of these practicing dies. Additionally, the quality of training, competence, and skills needed in the medical profession remains problematic in Nigeria because the professionals are being trained in scarce, inadequate, and quite often obsolete facilities. More often than not, the existing faculties of medicine are competing with other faculties for funding in the conventional universities. To curb and reverse the menace of overseas medical tourism with attendant capital flight, in the last few years, Nigerians have turned to India, South Africa, America, Israel, United Kingdom, Germany, and other countries in Europe for medical tourism. A report published in Leadership newspaper of November 21, 2015 edition showed that Nigeria loses about 3 billion naira to medical tourism annually. Nigeria alone accounts for 42.4% of the medical tourism list of Africans going to India for medical attention. According to a report published in Punch newspaper of 3rd of March 2012, India attracts more than 25,000 Nigerian medical tourists every year. In monetary terms, Nigerians spend about $260 million annually in search of medical attention in India alone. If our health sector facilities improve, we will become the medical tourism destination for Africa. Contribution to national economy. The Specialized University of Health Sciences commands potential economic benefits. With the current mantra to diversify the nation's economy from the hitherto oil-based economy, the health industry offers a great potential as a revenue earner. For instance, a recent survey showed that the healthcare industry in India earns revenue accounting for about 5.2% of gross domestic product, GDP, and employs as many as 4 million people. India's earnings from the health sector could reach $73 billion by 2020. India's pharmaceutical exports to Africa increased from $247.64 million in 2000 to $3.5 billion in 2014. There is therefore the need for the Nigerian government to invest heavily in the health-related educational sector, drawing from the experiences of other countries like India, in order to earn revenue, produce quality manpower in the health sector, and ultimately create employment to address the yawning gap of unemployment. The anecdote of specialized universities of medical sciences in other climes clearly demonstrates that there is high hope that the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Abeokuta, will revolutionize the health sector in Nigeria and bring to an end the endless search for medical attention, medical tourism, in other parts of the world, with its attendant capital flights from the nation's distressed treasury. In all modesty, may I submit establishment of this university is therefore a giant step in the